Okay, this is the fourth slide. This, I'm going to have you actually look at this image here before you go to the microscope slide, because I want to point out what you're going to see. This slide is the skin of your palm. Okay, so it's actually the skin of a human fetus, palm. And so you're going to see several things, including that stratum lucidum, which is that transparent, thick layer of the epidermis of the palms. But in particular, I want to point out before we go to the slide itself, so take a look here where I've got the cursor going here. This is what they're calling a tactile corpuscle, and we're calling these Meissners corpuscles, okay? Meissners, that's how you feel a light touch. So this is why these are very close to the stratum basal of the surface of your skin, right, of the epidermis. So they're very close to the epidermis. Okay, so you're going to see those in there. And then also I want to point out the Pacinian corpuscle, which is down here, and it's very deep in the dermis, in the reticular layer of the dermis. And I want you to notice the sort of spirally look to it with the core and how deep it is in the dermis. And that, the Pacinian corpuscle, remember, is how you sense pressure, which is why it's deeper. And then I also want you to notice these glands. What they're showing here is mostly these sudoriferous glands here, and you're going to see one of those in this layer. Remember that so sudoriferous is your sweat gland. Think odor, sudor, odor. The sebaceous glands, those are your oil glands, and remember those are typically attached to a hair follicle, which you do not have on your palms of your hands and the soles of your feet. So you're not going to see oil glands, sebaceous glands. You're also not going to see hair follicles in this slide. But there is one sweat gland, a sudoriferous gland, that we'll look at. Okay, so now that we've seen in the picture, you should be able to relate it to what you see in the microscope slide. So let's take a look at the microscope slide, and we're on, again, the lowest magnification. So we're on the red one, which is 40x, hopefully. If not, put it back there. And the first thing you should notice is how thick this looks. The epidermis looks a lot thicker than it has been. And remember, we're still at 40x, so it's not any different. We're not more magnified. But the epidermis is much thicker than it was in the previous slides we looked at. So the first thing I want you to note, the next thing I want you to notice is those dark, they look like iodine spots, almost super dark, up near the very surface of your, that is where the epidermis is. You see that layer there? I think. And we'll zoom in a minute. And those are those tactile, those are the Meissners corpuscles. Okay, and then from here you can also, if you look kind of down into the reticular layer, into that loose connective tissue, it looks like it has fat in it. You see that Pacinian corpuscle in there, and it's got that sort of circular stuff with kind of a core in the middle of it. And I can't point at it because obviously you're not looking at my picture of it, but that's it down there in the reticular layer. And then, so let's just zoom in. We're going to zoom into the yellow magnification, which is 100 times. And you're going to be looking now. You see, once you adjust your magnification, you're going to see in the bottom right that Pacinian corpuscle. And now you see there's a couple of them in there. And then at the top, you're kind of starting to see the translucent layer of that stratum lucidum of your palms, okay? And then you also see in there, I'm pretty sure those are the Meissners corpuscles, the super dark ones. The papillary layer, which you can see almost pretty clearly here, is super bumpy in your hands and your feet, and that's because there's actually a double layer of the papillary on your hands and your feet, and that's what gives you your fingerprints. Okay? Over towards the left of the slide now, you're starting to see better that gland, that sweat gland, sort of toward the left on your slide. And now we're going to zoom in one more time, and I'm going to have you go look for those things. So kind of make out where they are. The Pacinian corpuscles, the bottom right. The sudoriforous, the sweat gland, is over there to the left, and the Meissners corpuscles and the stratum lucidum is up toward the top. So let's zoom in one more to the blue magnification, which is 400 times normal. And you need to adjust your magnification. And then you're going to zoom up and see, you're going to be looking at those translucent layer of the stratum lucidum. You're going to be seeing those Meissners corpuscles, which is the super dark brown. Okay, and now you can see them more like glands or more like corpuscles. They're nerve endings, right? And it's not a free nerve ending, right? It's a corpuscle, so it's a wad of nervous tissue, and that's right in there in the stratum lucidum. Okay, and that translation, and you can kind of see it's lighter and it's thicker. And then if you move your slide over, you're moving it towards the right. Oh, you can really see that stratum corneum, how thick it is of the palms. And then you're going to find that sweat gland, and you can totally see it. If you got to adjust your magnification so you're in line with it, you can totally see that duct going up towards the surface of the skin. I don't think it makes it all the way up, and we're going to lose it in the slice there in a minute before it gets to the surface. But there's another Meissners corpuscle, and then you're going to go down and back to look for that Pacinian corpuscle, which really just looks like a wad of skin at this point. It's kind of weird. But that's what that is. So that is actually nervous tissue. It's not, so you don't see like fat cells. It doesn't look like fat cells. It doesn't look like connective tissue, right? That's nervous tissue right there with that Pacinian corpuscle. Also the Meissners corpuscle. Okay, so now I'm going to have you return to the lowest magnification, the red one, and try to position their slide back in the middle there, so the next person can find everything. And then turn your microscope off.